As many of you know, we are transitioning away from, or have transitioned away from CNP Web, and we are going to be using Primero Edge for verification reporting. And I am going to be showing you how to determine your sample size for your verification type, depending on which one your LEA is required to complete. I'll also be showing you some resources that are available to you on NSLP Central to hopefully help guide you through this process. And then, of course, as we're going through this, please feel free to pop questions in the Q&A. That box is at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and you should be able to click on that and open it up so you can watch the activity that's happening while we're going through the training. I do encourage you to come off mute also and ask questions if you want. And the other thing too is that, just because I know everybody's computer is a little bit different, if something looks too small, please feel free to notify me, and either Kelsey will let me know if I don't see your message. But if I hear you, I will definitely do my best to zoom in. Okay, so where we're going to get started today is actually right on NSLP Central. And I'm going to pop this in the chat so you can join me if you would like to. Can everybody see that okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So on NSLP Central, if you scroll down or use Control F to find verification, you're going to find the materials that we have available to help you with this process. In the past, the calculation was completed in CNP Web, but this time we're going to be using an Excel file, and you'll be able to see how those calculations are actually done and the rounding rules associated with that, in order to determine how many applications you're actually going to verify. But before we get there, what I'd like to go over with you is a quick guide. We have steps to verification, which I'll show you here in a minute. We also have the SFA verification type. So that tells you if you have to do basic, alternate 3%, which is also known as alternate 1, and then we have alternate 1.5%, and then that's called alternative 2. And then we'll go through the verification tracking form that's optional, but we encourage you to use it, and that will help you with reporting when the time comes. So let's get started. You can open that by clicking on it from NSLP Central, or if you right click and want it open in a new window, you can do that too. This document will be available for you to download if you would like to. But this document, basically, it's what's verification. So each year, schools that are required to meet verification requirements need to check or verify a sample of their approved income and categorical applications, depending on their type. And all of that is determined based on the number of approved applications as of October 1. This does not include directly certified applications. And these verification activities, so pulling your sample size and contacting the households, conducting the in-house verification process, and then also communicating the results to your household, all of that needs to be completed by November 15th. And that's a federal requirement. You can come back to this resource. It's exactly what I'm going to be covering today. The recording will also be available to help you. But essentially, after verification is completed, there will be a training to walk you through how to report those results in Primero Edge. So that part will be coming in Primero Edge and at a later date. The general process overview for verification and the steps that you are going to follow are identifying that type that I've mentioned. There are 3 options. You'll calculate the number of applications that you need to verify. And then it's really important to remember that it's the school's responsibility to randomly select those applications according to the requirements of the verification type that they are using. But make sure that you're randomly selecting applications, and you can come up with your own process to do that. Sometimes software systems will help you do that, but you might have to choose a process on your own. After you select your applications, you'll send notification letters to those households. You're going to want to make sure those letters meet requirements. And then once your households respond, you'll have to check their documentation to do your confirming review, and then also your the rest of your verification activities. Once you are finished with each application at the end, that's when all that's due by November 15th, and then your results have to be reported by November 20th. Any questions so far?
We did have one come in from Margot. She said her form looks different than what is displayed on the screen. And Margot, you might just have to clarify which form you're looking at.
Is there a title up here in the top?
Her form says verification in 10 simple steps. So you'll have to refresh your browser with NSLP Central. That's an old version. So if you refresh, or basically get out of NSLP Central and get back in, you'll see this new one.
Thank you. Okay, so today we're focusing on number 1 and number 2 in that process overview. And then I just, again, want to reiterate that after you complete steps 1 and 2, this 3-page document goes through some important information to make sure that you're checking your boxes for verification. But we do recommend that you read through various sections of the eligibility manual that are highlighted in this guide. So step 1, you'll want to click on the verification type for the school year. This does change every year based on the criteria that's outlined in this document. So what you'll do is you'll look for your school name and then the verification type. If you have to conduct basic, that's a requirement. You don't have an option. If you have any next to your name, I'm going to show you what your options are. But basically, you get to pick which type of verification method you would like to use, or the sample. Any questions on this document? Okay. I recommend opening this verification sample size calculator so that you can make sure that it works. Just so that you know, I'm actually using Microsoft Edge as a browser. It should show the same in Chrome or whatever browser you are using. And then if you don't have Microsoft products, it should still populate okay in Google Sheets. But if you run into issues, let us know. So once you have this open, it is an Excel file, so you cannot edit it in NSLP Central. So you're going to need to click that download button. And then open the file. The other thing I want you to be aware of, it does show up in a protected view, so you'll have to enable editing to use the file. And then when you scroll up all the way to the top, the instructions up here tell you to report the total number of approved applications as of October 1, so yesterday. So hopefully you're able to pull that information from your systems with your or student information systems. And then you're going to count the number of approved applications. Again, remember, this does not include directly certified applications. So if you received, let's say, for example, an income application, but before you approved it, you found them on the direct certification list. If that student has been directly certified, their income application does not need to be verified. So it's those that are truly eligible based on an application that was submitted. The instructions are on the left side, and then we did put reminders throughout the document to help just remember some quick tips while you're going through things. So you're going to want to type in your total number of approved free income applications. So I'm going to pick a random number to show you how this works. But you're going to then put in your number of reduced price income applications. And then for this category, or these are categorical applications, and these are applications that are approved due to a case number or foster. Foster can apply by checking that box on the application, or depending on how your student information system does it, and they can be directly certified, but you're looking for the ones that are approved by an application. You can see that as I've typed those in, this has automatically populated the total number of applications as of October 1. And then also, just so that you know, and you can see or double check if you are interested in that, you will be able to see formulas throughout the Excel file. So you can double check math if you're interested in doing that. You also, out of the income applications that were approved, you need to determine the number of applications that are error prone. So error prone applications are within $100 a month or $1,200 of the income eligibility guidelines for a household. And in our case, we're going to put 15. And now we've completed our numbers for the calculator. What you'll see down here is there are boxes for each type of verification. So basic is what, basic 3% is historically what the state of Utah has called it. In the eligibility manual, it will be identified as standard verification. Utah calls alternate 1, alternate 3%. So that's why we have both names listed here for reference. And then we have alternate 1.5% or alternate 2%. Each of the sample sizes by type are calculated in these brown boxes, or excuse me, these gray boxes below. And then when you get to alternate 1%, and I'll go through each of these examples, you do need to make sure that you verify sample sizes from both of these boxes. Okay. Any questions so far before I show you how to apply your type? Okay. On this step, you're going to select the verification type listed for your school on that verification list. So we have it linked here. And again, it's also posted on NSLP Central. So that link will populate your list again. And like I said before, if you have basic next to your name, you're going to have to complete this basic method. And if you have any, you get to pick between any one of these. So for this example, I'm going to actually go ahead and select basic to show you that when you select the option that you're going to move forward with, it will highlight for you like which type you're doing, and then also highlight for you the number of applications that need to be pulled for that type. Something to keep in mind when you're looking, if you have any next to your name, You will notice right here, for example, that these are the same number. And then if you select the alternate 1.5%, this is a lower number of applications. So if you select alternate 1%, you don't have to verify as many applications. But what's important to note between these three differences is how you are supposed to pull that sample. So I'll go through that again in a minute. Something to note for smaller schools: pay attention if you're able to select your verification type for how many applications are populated here. In some very rare instances, alternate 3% actually is lower than alternate 1, but often alternate 1, it just depends on the number of applications that your school receives. But most of the time, alternate 1.5% is the fewest number of applications. Okay. Any questions so far about how to use this tool?
We have a few questions that have come in. The first one is, as someone who is new to this, how would I decide which one I might pick? So it might be worth going back to the sample type list and also just if it's any. Darla, which sponsor are you from? UCAS.
UCAS. Okay. So we'll do a case example. Thank you, Darla, for volunteering. So Utah County Academy of Sciences, you are an any. So that means, oh, did I hear somebody come off mute?
No.
Okay. You have the ability to pick any of those verification types. So what you'll want to do is identify the number, again, of approved applications as of yesterday. So any new applications that came through today or weren't approved as of yesterday would not be included in these totals. But on October 1, how many applications approved did you have at your school? And then you're going to want to make sure that they are calculated, reported the totals in each of these boxes as it applies. Once you do that, oops, sorry. Once you populate those numbers, when you look down at these different methods, these boxes tell you how many applications you're required to verify out of your whole pool, which is all of your approved applications. And you'll have to figure out, based on adding these two numbers together and then comparing it across these methods, which one makes the most sense for the time you have available. Darla, do you have other questions? Or did that help?
While we wait for Darla to respond, we did have one question from someone who didn't find their school listed on the verification type list and are wondering what process they're supposed to follow if they're not on the list.
Can you share with me which school you are with, please?
Pacific Heritage.
Okay.
Which I believe is a Provision 2 school, not in their base year.
Oh, that's a good clarification to make. I will make, and I'll make note that we do this at the beginning each time we do verification training in the future. Pacific Heritage, if you are participating in Provision 2, a non-base year, so you're not collecting and assessing income applications or just in applications period, or if your school site is a CEP school, or if you are an RCCI who only has residential students, you are not required to do verification. Hopefully that helps, Whitney. And Darla, when you say no real logic, just pick as it seems best. What I'm probably indirectly trying to explain is that if you select basic or alternate 3 in this example, you have to verify 60 applications, which means you are going to have to contact, track, and then report on 60 different applications and households versus the alternate 1.5%. This is only 21 applications. So it's much less compared to the other 2 types, which probably is time saving. But if anybody out in the crowd wants to confirm that, that would be totally welcome. Okay. Does anybody feel like they can't calculate their verification sample size based on their pool or have questions about the different types?
So for the recording, I will read the question, Michelle, from
Thank you.
Yayoi. First question of the sample calculator. Total number of approved free income applications means total of categorical and income eligible application or just income applications?
That is a great question. So the way that you're reporting these, we do have in the calculator, and they explain in the eligibility manual too, that this line is only free income applications. So if you determine their eligibility based on income, that application would be reported here if the determination was free. If the determination had been reduced based on income, you'd report it here. If you have an application with SNAP, TANF, FDPIR, or foster, you would report it there. But that means that that application was not approved on income. Does that help?
I have a couple questions. I have a handful of kids that are Medicaid approved, but they did not come through the direct certification. We either got documentation from, I think we got documentation from their parents. I would have to look them up again to find out why. Are those also considered categorical?
So that is an excellent question. And actually we recently, like over the last few months, we've been talking with DHHS about this. Households should not be submitting applications with a Medicaid number. So on this line, for example, in the reminder, Medicaid case numbers cannot be accepted on applications. And even if they have submitted documentation to you of Medicaid status of some type, they still would need to qualify based on income, or they have to be located on that direct certification list. And I can explain that a little further, but I want to know if what I said makes sense first.
That does make sense. But when I asked my rep, they told me to make, so I'll just, the one case I do remember was a student who has a sibling at a different school who did come through at their school, direct certification. She sent me the letter that she got from the school, and I was told to make a new application for my student, put that it was Medicaid in there. The case number was all zeros, and make a note on that and save those parent things. Was that done incorrectly?
So that's also a really, so that's it's a specific case scenario, but the additional context helps me know a lot more. So it's, what that sounds like actually is that the student was directly certified at a different SFA. Is that correct?
Well, the sibling was. I
Correct.
don't know about my student, but yes.
Correct. But when students are living in the same household and a student is directly certified, right? It extends to the
Yes.
other students when they're in the same school. If eligibility determination was shared with you, that's a different situation. And honestly, I'm like, just for everybody else on the call, who I'm sure I'm going to have a few who have experienced something like this before, we'll put out clarification in writing about how scenarios like that work with verification when you're sharing eligibility information across LEAs and SFAs. But I'm not prepared to tell you like that it's wrong
Okay.
right now. It truly is. I understand, like, I wish I could give you more context. And if you have more questions, I'm happy to answer them. But I like without
Well,
knowing.
so for the point of verification, I should just count those kids as an income, like that, because I'm just counting numbers, right? So I should just put those numbers into the free applications that I have, even though they're not really income applications.
Do you mean the Medicaid ones that you received?
Yes. Yes.
No, we're
Okay.
going to provide written
Okay.
clarification for
I got it.
everybody.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
The next question is from Heather. What if I made a determination on income and later the application came through on direct certification?
That is excellent. And that means you don't have to verify that application. If they came through on direct cert and you made note of that when they came through, they would not be counted in your verification pool because you directly certified them. Directly certified students are not part of this verification pool.
The next question is from Julie, but we might have already answered that one. Loretta has asked, she has been putting information about Aspire. So Aspire has a report where they can pull their verification numbers, and she's asking if she can use that report from Aspire instead of this calculator.
Loretta, if you have validated that your system calculates that correctly, you do not need to use this tool. I'm always going to recommend, like, unless you've verified that in some way, shape, or form, it should be pulling correctly, but I don't have enough data right now to know that it's 100% correct in Aspire. So I would use the numbers that you pull from Aspire and double check that the correct sample size pulls. And I don't know if anybody remembers, but this is what would happen sometimes with CNP Web is people would pull the report that told them a sample size from their system. And then when they got into CNP Web and they reported those values, the sample size actually changed. So I always would recommend to use our calculator. I know that doesn't always feel awesome because it's like, why do I have a system? But rounding rules often cause a problem. And Paul just spoke up. I saw him pop in. His is calculated incorrectly. So hopefully that helps. It shouldn't take you more than, well, to fill out the calculator, it shouldn't take you more than 5-10 minutes. But to pull the numbers, that's a different story. But if you have additional questions, Loretta, please ask. And thanks, Paul, for posting that.
The next question is, I would like to confirm the final date. November 15th is on a Saturday this year. So should we have everything completed on November 14th?
That is an excellent question. And the clarification I'm going to provide you is that, and we can put additional information in here the next time we revamp or update this, but federal law says that activities must be completed no later than February or November 15th. So if you do something on, like, you have until Saturday to submit it. But if you are not going to be working on that Saturday, yes, it would be due Friday the 14th.
That next bullet in that same sheet that Michelle is in also says that if you cannot meet the November 20th date for reporting, you should request an extension from our office on November 14th as an additional clarification. Melissa's question, which is next, is she's curious about the direct certification process. They imported all of their direct certification kids yesterday and today. Does she still need to check each student in CNP for any direct cert benefits before she proceeds? They have 91 schools with multiple kids on each application, and that process could take a minute.
So you, as of yesterday, you have, I just want to make sure I've got this right. You have put in all of your direct certification kids in your student information system, or did you put them into CNP Web? Where did you pull them from, Melissa? And Kelsey, just a heads up, I can't see.
I don't see anything just yet as far as clarification goes. She says, yes, that's correct. Pulled from CNP and imported into their student information system.
Okay. Ideally, what information, well, that doesn't really matter. Ideally, your student information system understands eligibility hierarchy. So if that was the case, anybody yesterday who was identified as directly certified, they would not be part of your verification pool.
Yes, I'm just going to add a couple of other pieces of clarification. It's important to note that verification sample is as of October 1. So you're going to use that snapshot in time of how many kids did you have as of yesterday that were free or categorical, and those are the ones that will belong, or income applications and categorical applications. Those are the ones who will belong on your verification sample to put into the calculator. Melissa, if you have additional clarification beyond that, oh, she
Yeah.
says thank you. Sweet.
Yeah, Melissa, feel free to give us a call too if you have additional questions.
Lindy is asking for clarification in the box for total number of approved applications as of October 1, that we don't include any direct certification students.
Correct. If they were directly certified, they've already been part of a confirmation process. So they do not need to be verified.
Marty's asking if she's just starting Provision 2 this year, does she need to do verification?
Yes. Good question, Marty.
Jenna Lee is asking if we already have Primero Edge, do we have to do the calculator sheet, or is it more to check as a fail-safe?
If you are using Primero Edge's student information system, I still recommend doing it as a fail-safe. The risk of not doing it and pulling the wrong thing is responding to a corrective action plan during an administrative review. So that's a if the sample size from the system is incorrect, but if you've tested it, it should be okay. Yayo
is asking, how do we know which case number is SNAP, TANF, or Medicaid when parents put the number under the case number, especially on paper applications. Basically, how do they determine which case number belongs to which program?
It's recommended to follow up with the household to find out if it's possible, but if they've submitted a case number, you can take that at face value. I'm talking slowly also because if Kelsey has something different to say, or if Kathleen Mogg is on, but you should be able to take that at case, like that case number at face value. But if they've indicated that it's Medicaid, you'd have to deny that application. Please let me know if that feels unclear, and that goes for anybody on this call.
Well, the only reason that's unclear is because, like in Aspire, when you're putting in the applications, it won't process unless you choose which program it's from. And so following up with the parents has been the only way that I've been able to know exactly what program they're on.
That would be best practice.
It is best practice, and on the application, they do have to mark which program the case number belongs to, right? So ideally, they're circling SNAP, TANF, or FDPIR on a paper application, or in your software system, they're indicating this is a SNAP case number, a TANF case number, or an FDPIR case number.
If any of you have the authority to pass that along to whoever's making the applications, that is not clear on the application. It simply says, are you in this program, yes or no, and what is your case number? Just FYI.
Okay.
You use Aspire?
Yes.
Yeah. I would recommend maybe putting that in as a help desk ticket for them.
Well, I mean, that's on the paper application. That's how the paper application from the federal government is written. So most people do not circle it because it's not asking them to do that. It's just asking them, are you in this program, and tell us what your case number is.
We can pass that along. And the other thing too we can consider is updating the Utah template to make sure that it's a little bit clearer.
That would be great.
Oh, Kelsey, you're on mute.
Bummer. The next question is from Sarah. If an application has a case number listed and they don't show up on the direct certification list, what do we do with those?
Though if they're approved applications, those would be part of this number right here. The total number of free categorical applications that were approved due to a case number. And then depending on your sample, you might verify one. Good question.
Carolina has a question about Aspire. If Aspire's reports are incorrect, which reports will give you the correct information to put into the sample calculator?
I can't tell you specifically which reports give you the total number, but just to clarify that, and I'm making a little bit of an assumption here, but there is a report often in multiple student information systems that will tell you the sample size to pull, and that's typically where we see most errors. But I'm not sure, based on your question, if you're talking about reports that total the different type of income and categorical applications you received, or if you're talking about the sample. And I just saw Paul offered an answer too. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, there are a few comments just about applications not specifying which program that goes with the case number. We recommend just overall that if you get an application that doesn't specify, to follow up with the household. And we have definitely made notes for next year's application to try and make that more clear. Michelle is asking, how do we know if they put in a case number, if it's an old case number or if it's up to date?
So depending on the situation, in this case, if you approved an application that was categorical, so it had a case number, it was complete, which means it could be approved, and then you gave them eligibility based on that determination. If they were selected during the standard verification process, which is what's happening now between October 1 and November 15th, they would be included in that verification sample. However, you can also verify for cause outside of this window if you're concerned about an eligibility status just based on information that you have. But that verification for cause is not the same as this process.
Okay. There is a question from Margot about anyone using Skyward. We're not going to be able to give you information, so if someone in the chat can answer Margot's question, that would be lovely. But other than that, Michelle, I don't see any new ones come in.
Thank you. Okay. Oh. I do want to highlight what I'm seeing in the chat, specifically that you're going to save all of your paperwork showing what you're doing. So for full context for the future recording, we've got my reports out of Aspire are not correct either. I went to our registrar and she was able to give me correct numbers that she reports. I will have to manually change them on my end before submitting numbers on the calculator. Also, I will save all of my paperwork showing what I am doing. I will do this, do it this way unless I'm told not to by these ladies here today. No, that's great. I like that plan. I think we all like that plan. Thanks for sharing. Hopefully that's helpful to somebody else. I'm sure it is. I feel like I can say out loud that if it's not written down, we don't know if it happened, which is something to remember with the verification process. I am going to watch for other questions, but for the sake of time, I want to show you, speaking of tracking, another tool that's available to you. So this verification tracking form, you have seen a version of this in the past, and you'll notice that some of the formatting is changing with the materials that we are putting out. This one is a little bit longer, but it's a fillable PDF, or you can print it, whatever is easiest for you. But it will walk you through step by step what to do with an application once you've selected your selected an application for verification. So for example, you'll put the household name up here, the number of students on the application, error prone, yes or no, what the original determination was. This allows you to document each required step in the verification process. So it's just a clean way to do it. You're welcome to develop your own way of doing this. This form is not required, but we have heard that it's been very beneficial for people. It just looks a little bit different this year. Any questions about this tracker form or tracking verification steps in general?
I haven't seen any questions about the tracking in general, but there are a couple more questions in the chat. Barbara's asking, so you know how we can look on CNP Web to see if households qualify for Medicare, TANF, SNAP, and is asking, can we verify in Primero Edge?
Right now, we are not directly certifying students through Primero Edge. That piece is coming. Right now, you should be using CNP Web to conduct verification, or excuse me, conduct direct certification activities. All these words that sound the same. So yes, direct cert should be coming out of CNP Web, not Primero Edge right now.
And Heather is asking, would you please provide info for contacting SNAP, TANF, or FDPIR if we need to confirm a family's participation in those programs?
The household should be able to provide that documentation for you. If they can't provide that information during the verification process, unfortunately, their application will have to be denied. Or it'll be an adverse action is the appropriate term.
And Lindy is just sharing that she uses Infinite Campus, and on several occasions she has seen that it doesn't accurately record hierarchy of benefits when it came to categorical applications that later were directly certified.
On that note, I want to point out two different things that we have on here that may be helpful. This verification infographic chart shows you like where eligibility types fall. So you have school enrollment, paid, and they're not part of the verification process. And then students directly certified are not subject to verification, but they're included later in October. But household applications for free or reduced that are income, SNAP, TANF, foster, or reduced income, these are subject to verification. So that visual might be helpful for you to reference in the future. And if you have questions about it, feel free to let us know. But that also is available right under the steps to verification. And then the other thing I want to point out too, if it's helpful, is if you control find for the word hierarchy, which you might have to watch me do. Nope. Under free and reduced applications, meal benefits hierarchy tells you what to do if a student qualifies for benefits in multiple ways, with a few example scenarios at the bottom. So that may also be a helpful resource to use when you're trying to determine whether someone is directly certified or not, and if they're counted in verification.
Melissa put in a really good question. That now that we have our verification numbers, will there be any direction on how to input them correctly into Primero Edge forthcoming?
Yes, so the difference between the two systems now, just for, and Melissa, you might recognize this already, but you won't be, the way that you used to do it in CNP Web is you would report information in early October to get your sample size. And then you'd come back in November, between November 15th and November 20th, to tell us what the results of verification were for your SFA. And the only thing you're going to be reporting in Primero Edge is going to be November 15th through November 20th. Your sample size calculation, we're recommending that you use the calculator to either double check your system or use it if you don't have another method. This is replacing what happened in CNP Web. You're welcome. Okay, the last thing I want to show you really quick over here, USDA eligibility template letters. We are, and I would really actually appreciate some feedback too. I know many of you draft or edit template letters to make them more user friendly. We're actually doing that ourselves for the state of Utah. And their template letters, you don't have to use them, but you just have to make sure that your own letter meets requirements. But I did want to let you know that the USDA ones that have not been updated in almost 10 years are available for you. There's a verification toolkit that's also available from USDA's website. But on these templates, you can use these. The "we must check your application" is the verification notification that can go out to your households. And then they also have a template for "we have checked your application." If we're able to get new letters posted next week, we will. And that would be something that you'd receive in the newsletter. We'll notify you then when they're available. And if you're able to, great. And if we miss you, sorry, we will capture it next year. But if there's any other questions or anything that we can help with, please let me know. I am going to stick around for a couple minutes in case anybody has questions. But otherwise, this concludes verification training.